I have finally made it to America, and here's time for some updates on the Immortals Academy team. After 2 weeks of play, we have 2 wins in the Academy League, and we were eliminated in the quarterfinals of the League Championship Series lock-in tournament. And this was all achieved without us having a single scrim as a full roster of 5 players. As to why this happened, and why was it that the Academy team was playing in the lock-in tournament itself, stay tuned for my explanation. Now, on 3rd January 2021, most of the players, including myself, as people who were not within America at this point of time, were not in the country yet, and as thus, we decided to field the academy roster for the lock-in tournament so as to maximize time for the LCS team to get as much stage practice as possible. This resulted in us starting scrims on 3rd January with the roster of Revenge in the top lane, Potluck in the jungle, Insanity in the mid lane, and Keith and Joey in the bottom lane. This is effectively the Academy roster for Immortals, with Revenge and Insanity, the LCS starters, filling in. We were then preparing for the lock-in tournament that started on the 15th of January, where we will have to play Evil Geniuses, Cloud9, and Dignitas. Pretty and Topun would arrive during this period, but despite this, we still would not be able to scrim, as Joey would be unable to scrim with us, as he would need to fill in for scrims with the main team, as the entire ploy for the academy to play in the lock-in tournament was to enable the main team as much time as possible to start to pick up, learn the ropes, and be ready for the stage games when the main tournament of the LCS starts itself. As such, we would then have to play against the Golden Guardians Academy team and the 100 Thieves Academy team on the 20th and 21st of January when the Academy season began. After which, this pace just didn't stop, with the lock-in tournament happening on the 22nd and 23rd as well, with us needing to play 5 quests, and then once we made it to the knockout stages, we would then have to play the 100 Thieves LCS roster. So with no scrim time as a full roster, 7 different opponents to prepare for, and only 2 weeks of prep time effectively, we decided to focus on executing a simple game plan, which was to focus on a jungle-centric style that had us stack drakes and aim to its sole point as a win condition. This would then also enable the agency to the players who would remain constant in the team, as such a strategy will focus heavily around the jungle, support, and AD carry, who would be consistently scrimming with the team throughout the entire period that we were practicing with them. As my content would not be as regular as it was before, do consider giving this video a like to help boost it up the YouTube algorithm, and subscribe to my channel so that whenever I release new content and if I'm giving any updates on what's happening, be it in terms of the latest tech and strategies for the League of Legends global meta, or just updates on the Immortals Academy team, you will be able to catch it. So the idea around a jungle-centric Drake stacking composition is that simplicity is key. Perhaps I would think that is one of the simplest strategies to execute, with scaling being slightly harder to do, especially when you're not guaranteed to end up on red side. And as such, this was a laundry list of topics that I had to cover with the players. It seems like quite an intimidating list of 10 topics to cover within 2 weeks, but if I were to group them into early game categories topics that focus around facilitating the jungler in the early game, covering for level 1s, and understanding how bot and mid prio facilitates into this could all be grouped under one specific category. And a second category which focused around dragon control and setup. Well, there was a third category which was a very specific response to Rift Herald, but once I was able to break things down into these 3 general areas, it made reviews much more focused and allowed a higher level of learning for the players once I was able to classify these learning points for them. When the lock-in tournament started, some of the learning points came true, with us being able to understand the bot lane 2v2, fighting for the push off the bounce after the crush 2 waves to secure the bot crab for ourselves. This put us in a strong position for the jungler to take a lead, as he was now able to perhaps secure a double crab for himself. However, they overextended under the mid lane turret, giving 2 kills over to EG's mid laner Jizuke, and from there the game snowballed out of control. As thus, the concept of facilitating the jungle gap in the early game and understanding the dynamics of farming versus ganking junglers still needed a little bit of work, despite these things being one of the central topics that we were covering during the 2 weeks itself. and it also shows the weaknesses of not being able to scrim for an extended period of time and as a full roster. The game against Cloud9 showed some additional weaknesses as well, as our bot lane was heavily exploited in this scenario, and it popped up with another new example as we didn't know how to handle freezes and crashes around perhaps what is the most volatile lane in the game at the moment. The game against Dignitas was a lot more standard, as we were able to hit most of our learning points and the concepts that we covered in scrims. We were able to take control of the bot side portion of the map, and from this, we were able to stack drakes and win the game with a rather large lead on the jungle in this scenario, with Potluck being level 15 on the Graves as compared to Dardox level 12 on the Karthus by the time the game ended. The Academy tournament had Pretty and Topun join the roster, and having Pretty on the team enabled us a more complex method of approaching the game, as he was experienced in the modern day approach of League of Legends macro, and would thus enable the team to play the two lane complete rotations to find picks if the opponents were overextending on 1-3-1s, which was exactly what Golden Guardians did when they went for riots and gangplank draft against us. Similarly to the Dignitas game, their jungler forced an early dragon that set their jungler behind, and as thus Potluck was able to capitalize on that and score himself once again another 3 level lead by the end of the game, and we were able to stack multiple dragons despite and reach Soul despite us giving up the first drake to our opponents. The game against 100 Thieves was a little bit more challenging, as a little slip up in the draft allowed them to pick Ornn, which was extremely effective into the Grace, Syndra, and Jhin that we picked on the first rotation of the blue side draft. In addition to that, we made some mistakes around assessing power spikes and Drake timers, trying to contest Zoe that Ryoma was playing when they had first set up on the objective. However, our solid understanding of teamfight dynamics and not overextending into the Kindred ulti and the composition was the key factor in allowing us to take the victory over 100 Thieves. A side note in this game was that our discipline on side lane timers was still a little bit lacking, and it resulted in side laners being picked off in certain situations, or us not being able to match and protect the wave when we were making the key rotations to make plays happen on the map. Still, this was another Mountain Soul game for us, and we finished the first week of Academy 2-0. In the LCS lock-in tournament that followed straight after that, we then had to play against FlyQuest, and this time around, the teamfight dynamics that proved to be our X factor in the game against the 100 Thieves Academy proved to be our undoing. As we made some small mistakes around the pre-dragon objective setup, we then felt compelled to chase past this choke point into a huge two-man Nara ultimate that instantly one-shot the Syndra without Syndra being able to pull off his spells. From this point, FlyQuest was able to stabilize, and they were able to capitalize on our further mistakes to take the game from there. Despite the loss against Flycast, we still made it to the quarterfinals where we played against 100 Thieves. And we, being on red side this time, we decided to try for a less orthodox strategy, going for the likes of Hakrim, Seraphine, and Karma. While in theory the concept seemed good, this is where once again our lack of practice as a team showed, and our inexperience showed, as the topics of handling 2v2 bot lane dynamics and handling freezes and crashes in bot lane proved to be on undoing, as the two-step fate pick was able to capitalize heavily as we were not able to manage our waves properly and ended up in scenarios where they could dive us 4 versus 2 in the bot lane and create large leads that they were able to effectively snowball. In the second game, we were able to create a rather stalemate scenario with us taking a huge lead on the top side of the map and our bot lane once again through their mistakes falling behind. However, a missplit with Hero Fight set us into a bad position. And once again, the topic of facilitating the jungle gap in the early game is one of the big points that we can look back and learning from this game as a whole. And with that, we end the first week and a half of LCS gameplay with us being 2-0 in the Academy and a quarterfinals finish in the LCS lock-in tournament. I hope you've enjoyed this content and this recap as to what's been happening with the Immortals Academy team. And once again, please do consider giving this video a like to push up the YouTube algorithms, and do consider subscribing to my YouTube channel so that you can catch the latest updates when I release a new video, as I will not necessarily be able to release them as consistently as I would like. And with that, this was Jensen, and have a nice day.